Imagine a small town where nothing ever happens, until one day, everything changes. Crestwood was such a town, tucked away from the hustle and bustle of the city, a place where everyone knew everyone. Life was placid, predictable, and peaceful, until it wasn't. In the heart of the community, a local park that had been the backdrop to countless family picnics and lazy Sunday afternoons became the scene of a chilling discovery. The tranquility shattered when a body was found, a grim testament to an unthinkable act of violence. The shockwave reverberated through the tight-knit community, leaving a stark impression on the faces of Crestwood's residents. A murder investigation was launched, the silence of the small town replaced by the sound of sirens and hushed whispers of fear and disbelief. As the sun set on Crestwood, the town was left grappling with a horrific reality. In the midst of this chaos, who was the victim that sparked it all? At the core of this mystery was Sarah, a beloved figure in the Crestwood community. Known for her radiant smile and infectious enthusiasm, Sarah was more than just a teacher. She was the town's beacon of hope and inspiration. She dedicated her life to the shaping of young minds, transforming the mundane act of teaching into an art form. Sarah was a woman of many passions. An avid reader, she would often lose herself in the pages of a good book, her favorite pastime when she wasn't molding the minds of Crestwood's youth. Her love for literature was not confined to her personal life. She used it as a tool to ignite the same passion in her students, often sharing tales of the many worlds she'd visited through her books. Her relationships were a testament to her loving nature. A friend to all, Sarah's laughter was the soundtrack of every gathering. She was the glue that held the community together, a pillar of strength during challenging times. Her bond with her students went beyond the confines of the classroom. She was their mentor, friend, and sometimes the supportive figure they lacked at home. Her passion for her job was unparalleled. She believed in the potential of every student and worked tirelessly to ensure they had the tools to succeed. Her innovative teaching methods made learning an adventure, turning the classroom into a haven of knowledge and discovery. Sarah's death sent shockwaves through Crestwood. The community was left reeling, struggling to comprehend the enormity of their loss. The town was shrouded in a pall of grief, every corner echoing with the silence left behind by her absence. The playgrounds were quieter, the classrooms felt emptier, and the heart of Crestwood seemed to have lost its beat. Sarah's absence was a gaping wound in the fabric of the community, a void that seemed impossible to fill. Sarah was the heart of Crestwood, and her death left a void that the town struggled to comprehend. With the town in shock, the police began to unravel the mystery behind Sarah's death. As the yellow crime scene tape fluttered in the breeze, the investigators meticulously combed the area. Amidst the chilling silence, the first clue caught their attention: a mysterious letter. The letter, though cryptic, was filled with veiled threats and an ominous tone. It was as if the author was playing a twisted game, leaving breadcrumbs for the police to follow. The distinctive handwriting suggested someone educated, perhaps even intimate with Sarah. But who? Among her friends, family, acquaintances who harbored such a dark intent? The letter became a puzzle, a cipher to be cracked, leading the police on a wild goose chase through the labyrinth of Sarah's life. Next, a piece of jewelry was found, a unique pendant, the kind that isn't easily overlooked. It was a silver locket, intricately designed with an emblem of a raven, a symbol often associated with mystery and secrets. The locket was not Sarah's. Of this, the investigators were certain. It was too ostentatious, too out of character for the simple, unassuming Sarah. So, whose was it? And how did it end up at the crime scene? Tracing the origins of the locket proved to be a formidable task. The emblem was custom-made, leading the police to a local jeweler who remembered crafting it for a man, but couldn't recall his face or name. The trail seemed to grow cold, but the police pressed on, determined not to let Sarah's killer slip through their fingers. Following these leads was akin to navigating a maze in the dark. Every turn seemed to lead to a dead end. Every clue seemed to raise more questions than answers. The mysterious letter, the distinctive locket, they were pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit together, creating a convoluted picture of the circumstances surrounding Sarah's death. As the clues began to form a tangled web, the question remained: who wanted Sarah dead? In a town where everyone knew each other, could one of their own hold the answer? As the investigation progressed, it wasn't long before the spotlight fell on a familiar face. Sarah's ex-boyfriend, Jack, a local mechanic known for his fiery temper and occasional public disputes with Sarah. Their relationship had been a stormy one, a roller coaster of emotions that had the whole town talking. Sarah and Jack's story wasn't your typical love story. They were high school sweethearts, yes, but their love was marred by frequent fights and breakups. They were the talk of the town, their tumultuous relationship a topic of hushed whispers and concerned glances. Did this turbulent past provide a motive for murder? That was the question that haunted the minds of the investigators. The evidence against Jack was compelling. He was the last person to see Sarah alive. His alibi for the night of the murder was shaky at best. And then there were the text messages. A series of heated exchanges between the two, just hours before her death, painted a chilling picture. The day of Jack's arrest was one that the town would not soon forget. It was a day of mixed emotions. Shock, disbelief, and fear swept through the quiet streets. Jack, one of their own, was now the prime suspect in this horrifying crime. There were those who stood by him, convinced of his innocence, while others were quick to label him a monster. But most were simply stunned, struggling to reconcile the image of the boy they had known with the man who now sat behind bars. The town was on edge, the tension palpable. Friends became foes, neighbors turned on each other, and the once peaceful community was now a hotbed of suspicion and distrust. With the suspect in custody, the town waited anxiously for the truth to come out. The question on everyone's mind was, had they been living alongside a killer all this time? Only time would tell. But in a case full of twists and turns, nothing was as it seemed. The ex-boyfriend, the first and most obvious suspect, was innocent. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives were led down a path that no one could have predicted. The real killer wasn't the disgruntled ex-lover, but the sweet elderly neighbor, Sarah's trusted confidant, Mrs. Eleanor Rigby. It seemed impossible, but the evidence was irrefutable. Remember the unassuming Mrs. Rigby? The kindly old woman who'd often bake cookies for the neighborhood kids, who'd lived in the same house in Crestwood for over 50 years? It was she who harbored a dark secret. Sarah's murder wasn't a crime of passion, but one of cold, calculated vengeance. The motive was a shock to all. It was a decades-old grudge, a bitter feud dating back to Sarah's childhood. Sarah's mother had allegedly ruined a relationship for Mrs. Rigby. It was a heartbreak from which she never recovered. And so, in her mind, Sarah became the embodiment of that lost love, the object of her festering resentment. The evidence that led to this shocking revelation was astounding. The murder weapon was found hidden in Mrs. Rigby's garden shed. Forensic analysis revealed that the same garden shears were used to cut Sarah's roses and to commit the heinous crime. Fingerprints found on the shears matched those of Mrs. Rigby, and the final nail in the coffin was the discovery of a diary hidden in the attic of Mrs. Rigby's old house. The diary entries, written in her shaky hand, painted a vivid picture of her obsession with Sarah and her chilling intent. In a shocking twist, the quiet town of Crestwood was left to grapple with the truth that their beloved teacher was killed by one of their own. The image of Mrs. Rigby, the kindly old lady next door, was forever tainted. Crestwood would never be the same again. In the wake of the trial, Crestwood was forever changed. The murder that had once seemed so unthinkable had left a profound impact, rippling through the once tranquil town. The community, once oblivious to the dangers lurking in their midst, was now forever on alert, their innocence shattered. Sarah, the young woman whose life was so brutally taken, became a symbol of change. Streets were safer, parents held their children tighter, and neighbors looked out for one another. Her legacy was a town united, a community stronger than before, determined to ensure such a tragedy would never befall them again. And yet, in the quiet corners of Crestwood, in the hushed whispers of the town's folk, the chilling tale of Sarah's fate continued to echo, a haunting reminder of the darkness that had once walked among them. In the end, the town learned the hard way that even in the quietest places, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface.